right, guys, I am not doing 3.2 because I am not grading it on Apex. It's about politics. So when it comes to the tests at the end, I hope it doesn't ask you too many questions about politics. I'm hoping that it doesn't really put a lot in just because I skipped it. I wasn't grading it. But if you have any questions, please let me know. So here is 3.3 for geography. The first concept that I'm going to talk to you guys about is something that's called a human demographic index. So, or human development index. So this is basically a map that shows the human development across the world. The countries that are darker are more developed. The countries that are lighter are less developed. So when we talk about development, we talk about their knowledge that they have. There's a few factors that are included with if they are developed or not. So how knowledgeable the population is through education and reading, their life expectancy, so how long they're going to live, and their standard of living. So how many resources do they have? Like here we have a really great standard of living because a lot of people have access to, a lawnmower, a fridge, a toaster. A lot of people have access to decent sized housing throughout the country. Now, these usually do not account in inequality. So, for example, here in the United States, if we took into account all of the people who are basically these maps, they cater to the people who are kind of more on the higher end of society and not to lower end, because higher end society are very well developed. They have a very high standard of living. So it takes more into account of that and less into account the people who are in dire need, who are in poverty, who are desperate, who are homeless. So if we were to take into account the inequality of people, our country would in fact be lighter because of how huge the difference is between the people who have lots of money and people who don't have a lot of money. It's a huge, huge spread, and that's just a byproduct of capitalism, which we'll talk about in a second. So that's what this is about. This has nothing to do, I know this could be under quiz, it has nothing to do with military power. That does not impact human development index here, okay? Next topic is the types of economy systems. So these are the types of economy systems. We've got the traditional, which is what most of the world used to be like before industrialization, really. People just make and do what they need to survive. Life was pretty simple. And then we've got two major types of economic systems that are used today. We have what's called a command economic system, or a command market, or a command system. This is basically, a lot of people tie this in with communism, and that's because with communism, the government really controls a lot of things. So remember, command means control, C and C. So what is produced? Whatever the government decides. How goods are produced? However the government decides. And how people get products? However the government decides. So they just they more so regulate. The command society for economics is mostly, when communism is trying to be put into place, is just making sure that everybody has what they need, and the government will decide what you need because of how big your family is, because of what your needs are. They just give you what they think you need. In a market or free market economic system, this is what we call capitalism. This is basically mostly what we have here in the United States, and I'll explain what I mean by that in a second. So whatever people are willing to buy and sell is what's produced. So if people want to buy, I don't know, I'm trying to think of some random invention. If people want to buy light dimmers so they can turn the lights up and down, it's not really needed, right? But maybe it's cool. Maybe people want to buy that. Well, if someone wants to buy it and someone's willing to make it and sell it, bam, that's produced. Right? So it's whatever people want. How goods are produced, business owners decide how, and they also determine, how it's going to get to people according to how much people are willing to pay. And you know, if they want to go to the store, if people are shopping more online, which they are right now, then they're going to, you know, market more to sell their products and ship it to you, you know. So it just, free market is you know, whatever the producers and the buyers, the consumers want. Okay, they determine how much and what. So this is the thing, is most countries have what we call a mixed economy. So it's not completely command, it's not completely free market. In fact, the United States, we are a mix of these. We are definitely a mixed economy. We are more capitalist or free market, absolutely. So if it was a scale, number 1 would be command and 10 would be free market, we would be like an 8, maybe 7.5, around there. Australia is one of the more pure free market economies. And on the other side, you'd see countries like North Korea, Russia, China, they would be more towards like the 2, 3 on the command side. The government really controls a lot of the markets in their countries, and who gets what. So, but just remember that a lot of them are mixed, where the government makes some decisions, they'll regulate some things, like our government tells companies how much fossil fuels they can put into the air, right? They say you can't put more than this percent of fossil fuels because we're trying to keep our environment good. So they're kind of regulating some things, but for the most part, the business is able to decide things on their own. So we have, that way we have a mixed economy. One thing that is important, this is the last topic, GDP, if you haven't heard of that before, gross domestic product. What that means is how much money countries make, okay? How much are they worth? How much do they make? Okay, so it's good to have a high GDP because that means that your people have a lot of stuff, you're able to support yourself, it means that you're successful, right? If you have more money, you're successful, so that's a good thing. However, if a country focuses too much on their GDP and having a high GDP, then there's things that are going to happen that might be hard, or might make it hard, or will suffer. So here are some costs. One is there's a lower life expectancy. And the second one is education and healthcare might be sacrificed. Let me give you an example specifically with healthcare. So in our country, our healthcare is okay. It's not that great, but it's okay. When we're so focused on having a high GDP and not focused on having good healthcare, this is more of a priority and this is less of a priority. That means people are going to go without healthcare. People are going to have to pay a lot for healthcare because we're wanting to make money, right? If we were to put more of an emphasis on healthcare, then we would have to put less of an emphasis on GDP, on how much money we're making. So it's either, you know, we've got to find a balance. Every country finds their balance. So the more that you focus on GDP, the more other things start to hurt, like the things that I mentioned. So that's some stuff about GDP, gross domestic product, how much money people or countries make. So that's it for 3.3. Remember, 3.2 is not graded, so skip it.